Hello, we are going to do a little non-spoiler discussion of M. Night Shyamalan's Trap.
Yes, this is a non-spoil, but spoils. It was great.
It was great. We both
loved it.
We both loved it. We had the best time at the movie theater.
And our kid loved it.
Yes. There was only the three of us in the theater.
We all loved it.
See the box office returns for this movie. America failed. We are a failed state. But we're going to talk through why we had a great time with this movie, why it's fun for the whole family. It's bringing everybody together, except for all the people who don't like it. And just kind of discuss our big picture thoughts about M. Night Shyamalan and why he's so divisive in these polarized times.
Let me say this. There have been many times that me and Matt walk out of the theater and are completely on a different side of that was great and that was crap. So let's just get that out in the open. This is not a husband and wife like we like everything the same. That it's not the case.
Not the case.
But we have very different reasons why we love things and some overlapping, and it hit.
It hit. What did you like about it?
It ate.
What ate about it?
Okay. I always need to be invested in the people. I need to care about them. Even the unlikable people, I need to care about what they're doing or hate them so much that I'm enjoying watching it. So I cared about everyone, even the non-consequential parts, even the people who are on camera for 10 minutes. There's a random mom in this movie that's got nothing to do with anything really. It's just a mom
great.
of a girl.
She's wonderful.
And there's just, a person that works at the concert. Like it's just, there's so many characters to like and to root for, and that they have different objectives. They want completely opposite things in a lot of times. And I'm still rooting for both. It had such a great way of making me feel like I was in the skin I was supposed to be in at the time.
The skin being the butcher Josh Hartnett?
Whoever skin I was supposed to be feeling. He does these amazing close-up shots of like just eyes and just reaction and face acting.
It's very unsettling, very a departure from M. Night, who's more classical in the way he shoots things.
It's just there's just a lot of feeling from the daughter to the butcher to the baker to the pop star. When I was supposed to feel their feelings, I felt them, and it moved. It doesn't. It also keeps going. I thought I knew where this was going, and it kept going in a fun way.
Hour and 45-minute running time. God bless you, M. Night Shyamalan. This is what we say we want. We want strong directors who get to do whatever they want. He funds his own movies. He goes to the bank and gets a loan.
Puts his kids in there.
Gonna spend $30 million on my own movie. And then it always makes money. And so he just gets to keep on doing what he's doing. The movies are different from each other, but you always recognize, not just because he's always in the movies, but you can tell like 1 minute in, this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It has a vibe to it. But
maybe it's the score? I don't know what it is that's the through line, but you're right. There's just like
there's an energy. I don't know. I just keep saying it's a vibe. If you're not into the vibe, I get it, because lots of people aren't. It's not just that, people say his dialogue sounds hokey or too heightened. I think that his movies generally are a little heightened. And
they feel more theatrical, right? They feel more like traditional theater.
Or maybe I'm not saying he's Alfred Hitchcock. I'm not saying he's anywhere near as good a director as Alfred Hitchcock, but Alfred Hitchcock also made lots of movies, also always had cameos in his movies, also employed his daughter as an actress in movies. And, but just Alfred Hitchcock movies you could always tell it was an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but there would be horror movies, there would be psychological thrillers, there'd be just plain old thrillers, but always just kind of in the thriller genre.
And just an interesting idea, like just a study in human reactions to extreme things. And that's what I feel like is the thing that is the same through all of them. I feel like they all come upon extraordinary circumstances, and it's just like, and how does a person handle that? Mm-hmm. Extraordinarily, usually. I mean, it is heightened because he always finds a scenario to wrap his movies around that are extreme. And then the rest is just like, let's just watch this person handle this extreme thing.
But this is a little bit of a departure because he does tend to tell like stories about ordinary people. And this is not an ordinary person. No. I mean, so maybe this is in like the Split vein or the Unbreakable, where you're watching a superhuman character or whatever. But like straightforward, you're following the villain and you're totally on the villain's side for the most part. And I thought, this is North by Northwest. This is a fun cat and mouse chase where you keep thinking like, he's not going to be able to get out of this. How's he going to? He got out of this. Oh my God.
You know, you say cat and mouse, and then that immediately makes me think of Catch Me If You Can. And that's a great example of me simultaneously rooting for two people who have opposite goals. I'm equally hoping Tom Hanks catches Leonardo DiCaprio, and then vice versa the whole time. And you think you understand what a serial killer is, and there's not some like sappy back. I mean, they don't use usual tropes to be like, see, he got this honestly. They don't need to. He handles it so delicately that you still have a soft spot for this man, not because he's deliciously evil, but because there's something so human in him too.
A testament to Josh Hartnett. This is an incredible performance.
Yes.
It should be nominated for an Oscar. It won't be, but this is an incredible performance. He's got such an expressive face. That face fills up huge parts of the frame. You can just see the way he works his mouth and little twitches of the eyes.
His hair.
He just turned evil again.
I feel like his hair was like a character in this movie.
Yeah.
It's like throwback to his old, his old.
His days of the faculty.
Yeah. Like just, But it's like corny dad and then like amazingly skilled sociopath. And he balances the two. I mean, you can almost see it come over him and then leave him, and then just a person that is constantly on the move in their brain. He embodied that so well. The constant thinking.
So I wasn't the person who I saw somebody post this on Twitter, and I was like, oh, duh. Like, oh, this is a movie about M. Night Shyamalan, the filmmaker, and the place he has to go to mentally and separate from his family to make the movies. And I'm sure that to get studio financing, you have to be a bit of a business psycho. And he probably does feel like
one-track mind.
Yeah, like, and Christopher Nolan's obsessed with this too. Is like, when I go out and make a movie, I'm a different person. My family's life continues going on at home while I'm not there.
It's like going to trial. That's not a great example.
You all go to trial.
Sorry, I worked in the legal field. I still do. No, there is something. Spielberg says so in his book too. Just that there's this. He calls it a fugue stage, and he describes it as kind of leaving his body while he finishes a movie, but that is just like a suspended animation of, this is the only thing that exists right now, this reality that I am creating, and then I go back and there's been like a time jump.
Yeah, exactly. Your kids are experiencing time totally differently from you, and they're so much younger than you. 4 months is nothing to you, but to them, it's like 20% of their lives.
That's what he was trying to say in Old. We figured that out, didn't we?
I think these past three movies, Old, Knock at the Cabin, and this, they're the parenthood trilogy.
Yes.
They're about him grappling with what it means to be a parent. The first two were more about like, what does it mean to raise a kid in a world that's burning and decaying, that's encountering climate change and rapidly escalating toward destruction. And this one is more like, what am I doing to my kids? What do my choices say about what I'm doing to my kids? Which means it's in dialogue with the village.
Right. And just because I've gotten away with it, or I've made everyone feel fine up until this point, what is that catastrophe when you get to the inevitable conclusion? Like, even that many years of normalcy just to have the big reckoning, maybe that's even more cruel than just getting it over with. Right. 6-year-old, I don't know her name, but and let me just say, a completely convincing pop star performance, great singing. The songs were this man put on a concert. Full,
and that's not easy to do, folks.
It's such a believable, just every little thing about it, what's like to be on the floor, but it's kind of a cheesy, it's not a hardcore, it's a concert for kids. So it's like tame, but then sprinkled in with a little bit of adult stuff, but not much because it's mainly 12-year-olds.
It's nepotism, of course, but he's also paying for the movie. So I'm glad he's using his money for that instead of evil things. This is the best thing a billionaire can do. He's not a billionaire. The best thing that rich people can do is pay for movies, I think. Actually, the best thing is to get taxed. But the second best thing is to pay for movies.
It's true, because he's making way for someone else who isn't him to get some payment for a movie from a studio because they're not funding him.
Right. Yes, exactly. He's paying it forward. Now,
is that an M. Night?
The other, it might have been from his pre-Sixth Sense. Like, he wrote Stuart Little,
but he was a dead rat.
On our episode about Signs, it's episode 90. We talk for 2.5 hours. We get really deep into that movie because his movies, his messages are always very broad, but you have a lot to chew on. Like with Signs, we're talking a lot about like, what does it mean if God tells you this is what your life is for? And you may not agree with that message. Or it's like, what does that say about what you're doing to other people? There's tons of stuff to talk about with this movie, like him literally bringing in his daughter in this movie about a man who is a serial killer and also a good dad. And I made this video about The Village and how all the things I think The Village is about. But I think that for a lot of people who don't like M. Night, they think he's too hokey, too cheesy. And what they say about his twists or some of his storytelling decisions is that they're stupid.
And what I have to say about that is like, I think you might be confusing what a twist is. I think it just might be more plot. I get that The Village is a true twist. I get that The Sixth Sense is. It's so unfortunate for his first couple of movies to be transcendent because it gave him no time to like build to what his craft would eventually be. So now every movie he makes, it has to dazzle me, twist me.
If he has a twist, it's like, okay, you're doing your thing. If you don't have a twist, like, where's the twist?
Or
it's like,
they look
what
for
is
it
he
where
trying
it's
to
not.
say by not having a twist?
Right.
Or you're anticipating some big swerve coming at the end of the movie where most of his movies don't have twists. And I don't like calling the earlier movies, they're not twists. They reveal what the movie actually is. I think a twist is something much cheaper.
Okay. Sorry, it's a...
But the things like
Prestige,
the water that makes that the aliens are vulnerable to in Signs, and that's how they defeat the aliens. Like people thought that was really dumb in 2002.
I think it's brilliant. Not every planet has the same components. It makes sense.
Okay, but even before you think that, like, why? My attitude's always been like, why should that matter? I think it's cool when they realize, oh my God, they're vulnerable to water. That's cool. I don't get the instinct to then say, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
Like, would it be any better if it were ketchup or like, or they could only be awake during the day? Like, I mean, I don't, if they need vulnerability so that it's not the most depressing end to a movie ever, that's just as good as any. I don't know.
Or in The Village, it's like, wait a minute, there's really not airplanes flying over this. Okay, that's a plot hole. So Joshua says that the cops in Trap, the cops who are doing a massive sting operation on this serial killer at a pop concert, are not behaving realistically because real cops would be much more competent. And in this movie, he just slips past all of them very easily.
The more cops you add to a situation, the less competent they become because you're dispensing the responsibility across a lot of people who see themselves as equally capable to the people next to them. This is like the biggest opportunity in their little cop lives, but it's also just like a Wednesday night and like they need to go home at some point and maybe they don't like being trapped in a building with the fucking butcher. Maybe they want to go home. Maybe they don't want to like run into him and they want to think that this perfectly normalish man is being normal enough to just fuck it. If I miss him, so do all these other 299 cops.
Right.
So you're off the hook. Give me 5 really motivated cops. You get a different movie.
Plus, look up the list of botched raids and military special operations.
Right.
Like
they're just
the list
people.
is extensive. These things are hard to do, and it's just a job to these people. Like Catch Me If You Can, which we're doing on the podcast this week. The Butcher takes advantage of people's expectations about other people, uses it to his advantage. You expect to see a stadium employee refilling the coffee, so I'll be that stadium employee refilling the coffee, and you'll never. I might as well be invisible.
Right. Just do an everyday thing, and don't be weird about it. And I'm gonna think you're not being a weirdo.
And to me, that's the fun of it, is to see how he's able to do it. It's like why in North by Northwest, Cary Grant is able to escape all the super spies and weapons manufacturers and stuff. Does it make sense? No, but it's fun. Or it makes sense, but it's like the main thing is it's fun.
Well, and I love your theory about why does this need to be complete reality? Complete reality would be boring to watch anyway. But you point out that there are some elements that they establish right away that are not of this world. Mm-hmm. So it could obviously very easily just be that we're seeing all this through his point of view. And if you think the cops aren't doing a great job, maybe he doesn't think cops do a great job because up until that point, he had not been caught. So,
yeah, there is a lot of subjective point of view. You are obviously living this movie mostly through his perspective. And M. Night even does some pretty unusual things for him in creating some sort of surreal imagery that puts you in his headspace. Usually he has a more objective view in his movies.
Right. We find out as they find out. Usually we would be the person finding that out about him, not living it.
Right.
Right.
And so if the cops are incompetent, maybe it's because he just views them as incompetent because it's so easy for him and he's just so good at this. But let's dig a little more into like why do we need is realism good in and of itself? Do you need movies to be realistic?
And are you even getting it to the extent you think you are? Maybe this movie just rubbed you the wrong way, but not because it's not realistic enough. Mm-hmm. It's probably just as unrealistic as most things you've seen. Go on.
Well, I mean, it's the question of realism versus formalism or expressionism. It's as old as the cinema itself. There was the silent films that showed people leaving a factory. Oh, look, there's some workers leaving a factory.
Documentary.
And then there's Fly Me to the Moon, where they shoot a rocket into the moon's face. And it's like everything emerged from there. Realism versus formalism. And there's no actual way to capture reality. Reality is reality. An image of reality is not reality. And then who defines reality? What is realistic dialogue? What is realistic behavior? Who comes up with the standard for what that is?
Right. Give me 5 cops and let them have the same conversation as is in the movie, and I'll show you 5 different reactions to it. Mm-hmm. They're all real.
Right. And what makes sense to you is not going to make sense to somebody else. So I mean, there's that question of how do you even define what reality is, but movies by their nature cannot actually capture reality.
If it's truly poor writing, what could have been written and said differently? Just one example that would make what happened in the movie seem more plausible to you. I feel like the dialogue makes the most sense. I don't know. The whole time it felt very, especially between the dad and the daughter. It's
that
perfect.
Reads real to you, but it might not to somebody else.
Right.
So like the debate about realism is like, who's defining realism?
Right. My history says that seemed real.
Right. And if the movie feels emotionally true to me, then I'm not going to question the things like how are the cops behaving. But if it's not working for you, like that's okay too, and maybe that's the fault of the filmmaker. But we're all going to experience these things differently. I guess but I don't relate to the mindset of like looking for the issues in the story. I especially if it's a director I trust, I'm like it's all by design. Every element of this is a choice.
Yeah, it's only when a movie is going wrong that I'm starting to see a flaw, and then I can't help but notice it. But I'm never going in critical like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a babysitter. It's hard to just like for your kid to not need you for 2 straight hours is a beautiful thing. So like I wanted to have been for something, and yeah, at least there's no waste in seeing a movie even if it's bad, but I'm not fucking happy after. And I was jazzed after this one.
We were walking on air.
Oh, like Fred Astaire.
So you have your spectrum of realism to formalism being the most expressionistic and sort of stylized, realism being documentary almost, and the midpoint is classicism. And M. Night's movies have always been classical, leaning toward realist cameras, subdued. The movie I just watched was The Village. Like a lot of that movie it's very long shots. It's just two people full frame having a conversation, and the camera keeps a respectful distance.
Right.
So then to watch this movie, which has tons of extreme close-ups,
yeah.
Josh Hartnett and like Alison Pill and people just staring directly into the lens, and then it'll have angles like you see half of the face,
right,
and then the other half is off screen. So it's like this is a pretty dramatic departure. The opening credits are very razzle dazzle.
Yeah,
it being set at a concert, like I felt watching the movie like this is a musical. This is M. Night's musical. It's not literally a musical, but it kind of has that energy.
There's a
like,
whimsy.
Anything goes.
Right. He could start doing a song and a dance and it wouldn't seem out of place, but I'm there for it.
Mm-hmm. And so I feel like the movie will teach you how to watch it. So when you know anything goes in this movie, I can expect maybe some unusual things to happen, or maybe all is not as it seems. So that's another reason why I'm just like, I'm not like looking through a magnifying glass trying to find, are people behaving logically or behaving in a way that I think real people would.
Right. I'm here to see people that I can relate to and ones I've never thought to see. And the movie did both. It subverts your expectations on tiny things. Mm-hmm. And one thing I'm thinking of specifically, but I can't say it because we're not spoiling.
Nope.
Damn it.
But I love M. Night Shyamalan. I'm so grateful that he takes these big swings, that he has total control, that he makes a movie basically every year, and I can't wait to see what he does next.
That he pays his employees and that people work for him
I bet
happily.
he's a nice boss.
He
He's a
seems
nice guy.
He
Yes.
does seem
And
nice.
you know what?
His kids seem nice.
His cameo in this movie, I liked it.
It's maybe the best one he's had because
Yeah.
there's something so believable about him wearing a headset.
Yes. That's right.
And escorting people places.
He usually plays like the doctor or the greatest writer in the world.
Or someone like too chill. There's something like just the right energy. He had director energy in this, but like second banana director energy.
Right. He has first or second AD energy.
Yeah, but a humble him is a good him.
So check out our Signs episode 90, and check out my review
This
of
Friday.
The Village.
And Catch Me If You Can this Friday. We talk about.
Catch Me If You Can.
You got it?
The movie.